Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. I have a lot to cover today, and I'm going to get in detail. I'm going to get in depth, and it may be a little bit challenging for some of you, but it needs to be said. I have been trying to figure out and unravel my own spiritual conundrum, or rather, how I'm traversing this transit into the new earth. What kind of pace, what kind of challenges? We've talked about these in multiple classes for the past several months. And today I want to focus on a further development as I unpacked what I am sensing and what I'm perceiving. Now, I have to tell you that there is nothing that's happening in the world today that I did not foresee or picked up in meditation or in channeling. Everything that's happening in the world right now, weather patterns, financial situation, everything is as predicted. But to live through it is something that when you're channeling and when you're connecting to a future horizon that you cannot explain. That experience I'm having now is unique and it's overwhelming in days, and there are days where I am now disconnected. I go back to the higher realm and I feel completely at ease and at peace. There are other days where I am emotionally or psychologically performing. I'm feeling all kinds of things and I'm feeling all kinds of emotions, and I'm trying to unravel why I'm having these feelings and these perceptions. I'm going to go back to try to explain to you my latest perceptions. What's happening in the world now is that the financial markets, the world, the global financial market is going to unravel, okay? To lead into or to yield a more equitable way of distribution or giving value and worth to all of us in the world. As you know, there's a 1% that controls 90% of the resources, et cetera, and what do these people know that we, the rest of us, don't know? And what have we subjected ourselves to accepting and being domesticated into believing as far as our role in modern society? Those are a rhetorical question, of course. So one of the focus for me has been trying to connect for the past 9 months, not 9 months, 3 or 4 months, to the source of all gifts. Because the thing that comes to mind is that everything in the world is connected to money and to finance. And the restructure that's about to happen now will cause people who have a lot and who identify with their money. I was sharing with the class this morning that I had a friend years ago, kind of like a very wealthy trust fund, who used to say to a whole group, a social group of us, you know how much I love my money, you know, and with pride and with complete, like, you know, I love my money. You know that, and I used to, somebody like this in the transit when value and worth of his trust fund and fortune, let's say the dollar begin to drop, or there is inflation, or there's or even depression, he is going to be very upset because his worth is connected to how much he has in the bank, right? There are others who are not in that state. However, I had a few experiences because I happened to go to a school where there was a lot of very wealthy people around as my colleagues, and I experienced quite a bit being in the environment of people that were wealthy. Not all of it was negative, but very illuminating. Like this experience with this guy. Otherwise, he was a nice guy. But that part was so clear, and he was not apologizing for it. He was completely transparent and telling you point blank, I love my money. I don't want to hear nothing about, you know, and I want to gain more. I want to put more on top of it, et cetera, et cetera. So be that as it may. I want to talk a little bit more about the idea of connecting to the original source that came from the uncreated and the point of emanation, that begins to open up to bring gifts of life, gifts of creation, gifts of exchange, gift of love, gift of joy, gift of happiness to the world. And what is that source? What does it look like? And what is that energy that flow? In the Indian tradition, they represent it as an aspect of God called Lakshmi, a divine feminine energy called Lakshmi that has 1,008 different aspects, meaning that it's the representation of her is that she has a jar of gold where gold flows out of it, gold coin endlessly. She's the cornucopia, or the horn of abundance. In the Christian tradition, as of a century ago, they used to call her Fortuna. In fact, Karl Orff created this beautiful piece, Carmina Burana, and there's a whole section about Fortuna in there. It's a beautiful piece. I love it. I love hearing it. Beautiful orchestra. It's just gorgeous, right? But the point being that that energy and that flow has been illustrated, and it's now in modern day Christianity that you don't hear so much about it. But there was a time when early Christian worshipped her like almost equal to the Virgin Mary. That she was, it was a power and ability to connect to so-called good fortune, whatever that is. Okay. And I want to talk about this because I want to expand on this because I want you to understand that when you think of people like Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett, all these people who are billionaires who have all this endless fortune, if you keep thinking about their extravagance and the planes and the yacht and all the stuff that they're buying, or the royal family of Saudi Arabia, you know, who have these oil money that are, you know, dropping a few billion on this or that or the other isn't insignificant to them. When you think of them, if you see yourself outside of them, meaning their gesture, every time they want to buy something, they don't hesitate. Whatever the cost is, here it is, they give it back down. There is a consciousness that's connected to this because they are not, the money and the abundance that they have now is only temporary. The person or the force that holds this abundance is that energy, that source, that point, that Fortuna, that Lakshmi, that cornucopia, whatever you want to call it. It's that source that holds everything. It's not something else, it's that source. And I want you to understand this so that I can begin to describe to you in further detail what we're gonna expand on a little bit more, because they are the temporary custodian, which means at any point, if they act out of alignment with the rules and the natural law that connects with that cornucopia, they will be cut off. Because there are people in the world that had money and good fortune that lost it all. Okay? And what are the rules? What are the connections? It's that, and I had met people once or twice. And I remember meeting somebody not about 6 or 7 years ago. We were talking about doing these projects and blah, 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 like Guyville and doing all that. And then I was saying, well, I don't have the money. And he looked at me and said, money is easy. Money is never a problem. Money is easy. That part is easy. It's the other part. It's to use the money correctly. That's the part that's the problem. And he was able to manifest like this. Everything he touched, like this. Money it just flowed. And I was quiet. I didn't think he was human. I'll be honest with you. I thought he was not completely human. I thought because he was very peculiar and very strange. He lived an ascetic life. There was something very strange about him. I didn't think he was human because he was able to manifest like this, like no problem. And there is a mentality, and he had it. He was right on it, that you need to connect to an understanding and a complete certainty that you and Lashmi are one. That the money that Jeff Bezos has, that Steve Jobs, that Warren Buffett has, belongs to Lashmi. And if it belongs to Lashmi and you are connected to Lashmi, that money is yours. It's a collective pool. It doesn't belong to them. And when you need access to it, by the connection that you have, you will decree it and you will claim it, and the money will manifest. It will come to you. It's an abstract, intangible thing, but it is actually essential. I've spoken about this in previous classes. When I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, I couldn't. He explained this. He was from Japanese or Asian descent, and then he was living in America. He had a father that was an institutionalist who worked, I think, for the government, and was great moral character that taught him what you're supposed to do to make it and to have a comfortable retirement. He had, however, a neighbor that, because his father was working all the time, who kind of co-raised him, a white neighbor, and he called this neighbor the rich dad. And that's the mentality of this guy had. And that guy taught him, of course, he's a millionaire. And he said there was a difference between the two. And the book described it. I read this book so many times, I couldn't get it. I understood the word. I understood what he was saying, but the consciousness was such an abstraction, a far-fetched, crazy way of thinking. I'm like, huh? What? You know, like Scooby-Doo, raising my ear. Huh? Like, I couldn't figure it. I'm like, what is he talking about? I'm not dumb, I'm not stupid, but I couldn't get it. That there is a consciousness. And I'm going to give you another example. When you're about to buy something, and you go into, a couple of weeks ago, I was describing this instance, I think it was last class we had, where I was at the shop in Upper West Side on 72nd Street called Charivari, where there was a suit that was, Claude Montana suit that was worth 3,000 something, and I tried it and it was a perfect fit, and I didn't have the money. I was like, oh, well, no, thank you. The guy was like, do you want it? The color, everything matched, everything was perfect. And this is when I had hair and I thought I was somebody, okay? And I was, 160 pounds, and I thought, I look like a model, and yet in my head, as somebody at the time going to Columbia University on grants, putting that kind of thing on my credit card was unthinkable, because I was struggling. I was a struggling student on one work study program. And that mentality stayed with me. That's the poor dad. Whereas my friend, although they were from very wealthy parents, my two friends I was with that are from South America, extremely wealthy from Colombia, they didn't have that problem because they're a different mentality. And they were like, I'll take this, I'll take that, that kind of thing. And I'm saying this, I'm not telling you to go out there and put yourself in debt. But I'm telling you that there is a mentality that's different. That if every time you're going to buy something, or even when you're charging your clients, particularly when you're doing healing work, which feels a lot of time to all of us who are healers, that we shouldn't charge our client. Because as we're doing the healing for them, we're getting healed. So it feels kind of like, something I've shared that with you that I've always struggled with, but it's something that I have overcome, and I'm overcoming even more, that I realize now that if I don't, and it's a question of worth and value. It's not about money. It's about worth and value. Okay? Forget the money get the money out of the way for a second. If you have expenses, let's say when you do your monthly bill and expenses, let's say it's $4,000 or $5,000 a month. If that's how much you need to live, and you're charging your client $3,000, you're telling Lashmi, I am not worth it, I'm undeserving. You're telling that flow, I'm undeserving. In fact, the flow itself wants to give you 10,000. The flow wants to give you more, because if you are doing God's work and you're aligned with the divine and you're doing God's work and you are struggling, you cannot be an effective agent for God. Whereas if you're in flow and you don't have to worry about this, you can really be at peace and receive the message and communicate it and be a true catalyst for change for the rest of the world. So it's to, and if in other words, if you're not charging your client appropriately so that you can be thriving, and I'm not talking about, billions of dollars and all of that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about to be comfortable and not have to worry every month how you're going to pay this bill or that bill, and when is due date for that, and can I roll this over a couple of days late before I get a penalty fee. So if you can exist, and that's the mentality you need to have. You need to understand it's worth. So you need to charge what you're worth, what you need to be comfortable so that you can thrive. Instead of you underballing yourself, undercharging yourself because you think no one is going to really pay for this. If you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. You have to know what your worth is. Now, what I'm going to talk about now is complex because it has multiple prongs that are connected to it. Some of it is not only connected to worth and value, some of it has to do also with karma, and some of it has to do also with an opposite energy. And this is the new development that I'm beginning to unpack for me right now. There is a resisting and adversarial energy that is trying to poison our mind and consciousness and telling us we're undeserving. And therefore you are not worth it and you don't have the value to charge for this. Therefore you should charge less. And although actually the divine force where that's what wants to give is trying to give it to you, you're the one that's saying no. No, I don't want it. I don't want it this way. I'm resisting because I don't think I'm worthy. So the lack mentality that exists in the planet as a culture, in the planet of survival, the idea that I'm gonna I have to struggle. I have to suffer. I grew up Christian, and the biggest lie ever perpetuated is the original sin. It's the most horrible thing that for the past 2,000 years that this church has done on humanity, to try to control us, to tell us that we're unworthy by birth. That the moment you're born, you're crooked. Something is wrong with you. It has destroyed us from generation, from past generation, from an ancestor, from our ancestors until now. It has destroyed us. Now, the indigenous cultures may not have been this way because they don't have that concept in their culture. But what did we do? We converted them. The Christian converted them and indoctrinated them into believing that there is an original sin, and therefore they have no worth and no value. They are crooked. They have hump in their back. And only through Christ, and more importantly, because you don't have no worth, no value, And like Christ, you have to suffer, and suffering is noble. There is no such thing in an abundant universe. There is no such thing. It's a complete lie. There is no such thing. And more to the point, the church fathers who indoctrinated, and I'm talking about now 325 AD, Nicaea, in city of Nicaea in Constantine's empire. It was fabricated to control. And we need to step away from this and reclaim, because we are traversing what's happening right now. That source, that cornucopia that's giving to the world is going to test the whole planet by karma, by destroying the value of what we hold dearest, which is money, and redistributing it in a completely different way. Now, for those of us who are connected directly to the real worth that we have, and see ourselves like this man that I met, that I told you was a little bit strange. I didn't think he was human. As I said, I met him a couple of times in a social setting. My friend was telling, it turned out that he was staying with a friend of mine temporarily here in New York, and I met this man. And I remember we met a couple of times. I thought, this man is not human. There's something wrong. Because I've never met anybody that thinks this way, that's so out of the box. And truly, everything that he did was like this, manifest. If he wants this, blah, 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 like this, manifest. Because he existed in certainty with source. And because he was in that space, he again, that intangible and abstract state is paramount for you to thrive in the transit between now and 2023, and not 2023, 2030. It is paramount that we hold ourselves in that awareness. Now, equally on the other side, there is a resisting force. There is an energy that's trying to hold us back, and that's keeping us from being domesticated. And I have to tell you, my spiritual practice has to change. And part of I told you there are multiple points. One of the things that you need to do is that you need to self-assess as we're going through the transit, because what is a spiritual practice for me right now is changing daily, it's changing weekly, because how I feel one day may not be how I feel a week from now. And as I do the practice, maybe sometimes it's universal breath, other time it's torsion field, other time it's Dentien, and other time it's morphogenic listening. And what I'm redoing right now, and that has brought me so much information that I'm sharing with you right now, I'm redoing the Archangel Michael's sword prayer. And it has really, really been a breakthrough for me, a gigantic breakthrough. Because all the struggles that I've had for the past 5 years, and I have, the fact that I've been able to guide all of you through the turbulence and the resistance that I've had for the past 5 years is a miracle. And it only demonstrates my discipline and tenacity as a Capricorn of not giving up and being stubborn. Because that energy meant to cripple me. Okay? And I'm telling you, listen carefully to what I'm telling you. It became very, there's a part of the prayer that says, Saint Michael, the Archangel, as you say the prayer, you're asking, to defend me against the wickedness and the snare of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, Prince of heavenly hosts, by the power of the Lord, thrust unto hell Satan and all evil spirits who wander through the world for the ruin of my mind, my body, and my soul. So when I got to the part that says, to trust and well, Satan, all of a sudden I was spraying for a specific sense that something was not right in the background. And I was trying to connect on the specifics, whatever that was. What I realized at that moment, there was a gigantic cloaked principality. There was a gigantic cloaked personality that was trying from day one, from going back 5 years ago, that was orchestrating all kind of ways to influence me and to keep me from not accomplishing my purpose. I never saw it. Not as clearly. I was focusing on each incident. I was putting fire, one fire, second fire, third fire. I didn't see the big picture. I never saw it. And that energy and that consciousness, and I'm going to be very direct, do not panic. I'm going to tell you the truth. That energy has been called by many things. In the prayer, it's called, they call it Satan. In the Kabbalah, they call it Satan. And it's a code name, according to the Kabbalists, to what they call the resistance. It's the energy that was designed to test us, to test our consciousness. If you think of Job from the Bible and how well off he was and how connected he was to God, and he got tested by this resisting force that was so powerful, that test was given to him by Satan. And I'm going to make a difference between all kinds of aspects of that. The word Satan translates as excrement. Okay? It means that energy, the value that energy gives you, it's like your defecation. It's trying to separate you and destroy your ego, because the opposite, the force on the other side, the opposite is trying to give you worth and value and an endless gift, and giving you a sense of worth that you're deserving. The opposite is on the other side, because that force is trying to stop you from connecting to it. Okay? Now, there are other aspects of this that a lot of people confuse and think it's the same. They are not the same. They are different aspects. Okay? You have what in the Kabbalah they call Satan, the right pronunciation, the right accent and pronunciation, Satan. Then there is a Kamael, which is the burner of God, Archangel Kamael, the burner of God. And that archangel is a zealous fire that could be highly destructive. It's the force of explosion and of fission, of separation. Then there is also Samael, which is the angel of death that moved to and took out during the night the firstborn of Egypt. It's the angel of death. But that, this is the way it was biblically introduced, but that archangel is a recycling center. If you can think of it in broader term or cosmic term, it's a recycling center to take out of the chess, all the chess pieces that are dull, that no longer function and that don't function correctly. They are not all the same. But what I'm dealing with right now is in the Native American Indian call that force the adversary. That's what I'm dealing with right now. I never saw the cohesiveness of it. And it was just one force. I was putting out one fire at the time. You know how many times I've said that Archangel prayer, Archangel Michael prayer over the past 5 years? But I was putting local fire. I didn't see that there was an arson that was deliberately setting them up. I didn't see it. A cosmic arson that was deliberately doing this to stop me from connecting to that energy. This is immense for me. It's a huge breakthrough. I'm sharing this with you. You can choose to accept it or not accept it. You can learn by grace or ignore it. I'm just sharing it with you. Any questions, any comments?
Pierre, would you say that this is God's design, that he created Satan as well to be the opposing force, or Samuel or Camiel or the adversary? Is this part of the testing process on purpose?
Yes. Yes, they all play a role in the cosmic balancing game. They equilibrate and balance each other, okay? But if you are caught in their web and you don't know where you are, like I consider myself reasonably intelligent, I didn't see it. I consider myself reasonably intuitive, I didn't see it until today. I didn't see it.
And the purpose would be to strengthen us if it doesn't kill us.
Well, as I said to you, if all the guidance I've been able to provide you, if it was anybody else, they would have been broken down completely. Because the tests that I've gone through are intense for anyone else to move through. Okay, but now what I have is that I have great hope, because I'm beginning to realize now where I am. And I'm now, I saw something I never saw. What happened today, when that breakthrough happened to me during the prayer, all of a sudden I'm like, I know this. I've been feeling I'm not seeing something. No one could have such a series of bad luck. There's something I'm not seeing. And suddenly today, it was like, I never saw the puppet master. I'm you know, maybe it's because I'm a teacher or whatever, I have this kind of block. I think I'm at a point where it should not touch me. Maybe it's my ego, but I never saw it. I didn't see it.
What process did you use to banish it?
I'm using the Archangel Michael's sword prayer.
Oh, okay.
And I'm saying it 3 times a day now.
I remember there was another process. I kind of trying to remember what it was. I think it went back to some of the Indian deities, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, there are multiple processes, and at first, to be perfectly honest, at first I didn't know what it was. Like as of this morning when I did my prayer, the first part of this prayer, I didn't know. I knew there was a force there. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was Archon in general. But when I went deeper, around noontime, when I began to do my walk and my meditation and waterfall, I went deeper. I realized, no, it's not Archon. It's actually Satan. It's the adversary. It's the actual, because you have to identify exactly what it is to get the cure, to create the proper countermeasure. This is where self-assessment comes in, and I didn't get it.
And you're teaching this all the time to us.
I know. And part of it is it's to be blind. What is it that Dr. Stone used to say to me all the time when I first became Pierre? You teach what you want to learn.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. I've asked some of you that I'm close to pray for me, because I felt overwhelmed by something. I just didn't know what it was. I felt overwhelmed, like I was under attack. I just didn't know. I couldn't figure it out. So I'm trying to illuminate this for you, because you yourself may be going through your own particular spiritual conundrum, equally affected by something similar. Learn by grace. Learn by example. Any questions, any comments?
But Pierre, sometimes you get the teaching, it stays in your head intellectually. And it's when you're going through the turmoil, it's like, oh God, I can't put it. It's like you're in a daze and you don't know what the hell is happening. And you have to just do a tremendous effort to remember the teaching, to remember the things that you know intellectually, because now you're living it and you have to apply it, what you know. And that is the prayers, the discernment, the self-examination. And the self-examination is huge, because if you don't do that, you will not be able to get out of it.
Yep.
So so it is one thing that you get the teaching, and I'm saying this is because you are telling everybody to learn by grace, but until you in there, it's like you're in a how you call this, Pierre, tourbillon?
A vortex.
Yeah, it's like you're in a vortex of things, and then they start hitting you one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other.
The way I described it in class this morning was that you're trying to talk to God on the cell phone, and you're walking down the street, and there is all of these sirens of emergency vehicles all around you.
Yeah.
And you cannot hear what you're saying, nor can you receive the message. So you're trying to connect to that source, that abundant source that can help you thrive through the whole thing. But that energy is deliberately creating these fires, these crazy things that are happening all around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of a sudden, everything in your house is breaking down. You have all these emergencies. You have sickness on your body. You have it's all being orchestrated to keep you distracted, because if you connect to that energy, all of it will stop.
Yeah.
Would you say, Pierre, that the process or the method that is used in the opposition is a direct negative manifestation, or is it the suggestion to our consciousness that we are not worthy, and then by that unworthiness we attract the negative, and maybe it doesn't matter because it all winds up the same?
It's all end up the same, whether it's the chicken or the egg that came first or second. It all end up being the same. The point being is that resisting force. I have to tell you, to do all of the miraculous presentation I've done for all of you, to do all the classes.
And doing healing at it too. And healing people at it.
And I was laughing to myself today after that realization came to me. I was thinking to myself, the kind of things, the kind of channeling that happened, that I did at RESAC, the kind of stuff all the things that are happening, the inside. I said to myself, if I didn't have those kind of things holding me back, that energy holding me back, where would I be? What kind of healing would I do toward the world? And I'm going to go even further. The fact right now that I am still teaching to all of you in such a closed circuit, although I have technology that could liberate the planet, that energy is holding the audience back away from me.
Wow, Pierre. Well, you know what just came to me, Pierre? Remember, it was about 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know when. You remember when I told you I had this dream and you were tired up the steel wire had you tied up, and it was very stern steel, and you were just tied, and you couldn't hardly move. This is bringing me back. I thought about that, and I don't know what it means. I just know I dreamt it,
Yep,
and I shared it with you.
yep, yep, yep,
But
yep.
you know, it reminds me though, Pierre, of something, and this is kind of goofy, but I know in college I had this teacher, and he would, I mean, kind of elderly black man, and he would be teaching, and sometimes he would stop as if he was preaching. He would say, "Life is education, and education is life." And at the time, we thought he was the craziest person we had ever come across.
Mm.
But you know, now I realize how much wisdom he was sharing and he wanted us to get. But at the time, I just thought it was just crazy
Mhm.
because it was way beyond where I was in life and the way I thought about life.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I agree. It's a consciousness thing, and everything is connected and related in that very profound way if we can just listen and allow and learn from it and act on it.
Yeah.
But this is, thank you for sharing. It's a lot to ponder, I tell you.
I'm telling you, some of you may already have passed through that struggle, okay? And I'm all
No, you never pass through that struggle, Pierre. That's the thing. I mean, you go to another level to
a
deal
different
with
level,
it.
a different level of it. Yes, yes. And I'm
Thank
experiencing
you, Esther.
I'm experiencing a level, an intensity level that is equal to the kind of work and purpose that I'm supposed to do.
Correct.
Telling you that the kind of challenges I've had, I'm someone that keeps everything close to my chest. I don't share. I do share some experiences once there is a denouement, there's a conclusion. But as I'm struggling through something, I don't share it.
Oh, yeah, do I know that?
I hold it close to my chest. I make sure that it's complete because I need to assess it. I need to figure it out on my own because it's my test, right? So I'm saying this to you because there is the intensity of what I've gone through. And now I'm beginning to understand. I'm like, I know this. There's a part of me in a deep in the recess somewhere that knew that there was one culprit. I just couldn't figure out how to get to the awareness, to unmask this because that energy was so well camouflaged, I couldn't see it. I couldn't unmask it. I can see it in other people easy, but for me to do it for myself, I couldn't see it.
But do you realize, Pierre, that it was a process for you?
Sure.
In order for you to see it now?
Of course.
Because where you were, I would say maybe 6 months ago or 8 months ago, 7 months ago, you're not there anymore. You gradually, you were graduating.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you were going to a class and you were taking the steps and you were graduating until you reach that point of I'm taking the classes in Haiti where you go to philo to you know, and you finished and you finally accomplished something and you're like, oh my God, what, I mean, I did it. And that's what's happened to you. It's like you did it, but that doesn't mean, like Esther just said, that doesn't mean that the level that you're in today, you're not gonna encounter something. Now you are more aware and more adept to catch it, and it will be like a breeze in a way.
Yeah.
And you had to go through this in order to continue your spiritual journey and your spiritual teaching. And again, that discipline and while you were going through this and doing all your modality and everything that you were doing, it was just phenomenal. And it's a grace, it's a blessing, it's an abundance from God that you were able to manage that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And I have to add to this, Marjorie. Thank you for sharing this. I have to add one more thing, a few more things to this. Had I not gone through this, I would have not connected to Lashmi the way I'm connected to her right now. That's
exactly.
because we exist in a polarized world. It's through the duality that you're able to differentiate between the two. It's
And as a
while focusing,
teacher,
it's while focusing on Lashmi and Lashmi alone and trying to connect to it, and something is pulling me back every once in a while, blah, blah, blah. And then 2 days ago, I'm like, there was a resisting force.
mhm,
What is that resisting force? I have to unpack it, which something is resisting.
yeah,
I just had an image of a child, a baby, not wanting to be born because he likes this place where he is cozy. It's got everything he needs all at once. And then this force comes along and starts exerting some pressure on him. You got to go, you got to go. I don't want to go, I don't want to go. And he thinks that's Satan because he's disturbing and disrupting his peaceful state. But the birthing process will bring him to another awareness, another life, another level of existence. So maybe that's the purpose that God had intended for this, not just for punishment, but to force us to the next level.
If you,
correct.
Janice, to your point, if you read the Job,
The-
in the biblical, that the whole passage in the Bible, Satan had a conversation with God about Job, and God said, go ahead, test him, but under certain condition. Don't do this, don't do that. I forgot what there are a couple of conditions of what he was not supposed to do. Yet Job ended up being in a higher level, but he was connected directly to the abundance and flow. He was wealthy. He had everything that he ever wanted.
and you know what else went to my mind? I'm sorry, I mean, we're doing a masturbation of the brain, of our thought right now. But what went to my mind is this. Uh, what went to my mind is this, Pierre. The 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 same way what Janice just said about the level and what we're supposed to go through. It's like going up into a ladder. What we're going through here on a physical level, I think that's what death is all about too.
What do you mean?
The rebirth. Janet was talking about a rebirth, like a child that needed to come out, and the child was cozy inside in wherever that the child was. And then Satan was saying that you have to go, and then boom, all of a sudden it's out. You could reverse that and say it's the same thing for death.
But an aspect connected to Satan is Samael, which is the angel of death. They're like brothers. They in fact, and Lucifer is also in there, but Lucifer is not the same as Satan. There is a class that I will eventually teach about the archangel. They are not the same. People equate them to be the same. They are not the same. The frequency, the vibration, and the purpose, they may be the same lampshade, but each one facet reflects the light very differently.
Mhm.
And if you understand this, you can end up having tremendous wisdom, because you can understand when which energy is trying to connect to you.
Mhm.
Samael is the angel of death that Moses, through God, invoked, that took the firstborn of Egypt out during the night. And the people of Israel that had the blood of the lamb on their doorway, and it was the sign of the towel, by the way, that was in their doorway.
Yes.
And that sign protected them. And the angel did not pass, but everyone else, their firstborn was gone. Because that was the punishment that God was sending, so that the children of Israel could be free. So in this instance, the angel of death served God. This is what you're not understanding. It serves a higher purpose, a cosmic purpose.
Yes.
In the right circumstance. It's not the enemy. Like when I talked about Kamael, who is the archangel that actually breaks things apart, the burner of God. It's the force of an explosion, of a nuclear explosion, right? That archangel serves a purpose too. It separates, it divides, it explodes, and it explodes what needs to be shattered and broken apart in the right circumstances. Now, it could be used negatively as well, for negative purpose. If you want cohesion, you want the force of fusion to bring things together. This is not energy that you introduce when you're trying to create fusion, because it's the force of fusion that explodes everything out.
So if I can understand properly, I don't know if I'm wrong, you'll tell me. So everything that is happening with each angels that have these gifts, they're here for a purpose, because they have a specific gift and a specific frequency. It's really for our growth and our rebirth.
Correct. Because Lucifer's name is the bearer of God, the bearer of light. So each one of them have a different, they have a different frequency. This is why when you're invoking and you're praying archangel and angel, you need to know the meaning and their purpose, their function, because they cannot emancipate beyond their function.
But
So
Archangel Michael have more than one function, though.
He's the one that's like unto God. That's
Yeah,
what
but he has more than one gifts.
Because he's like unto God. This is what his name is translated literally. He was like God.
Yeah.
Whereas he's the chief of all of the other archangel. Whereas the other angel, if you want to hold something together, to create fusion, to make sure everything is like everybody's sitting around a warm hearth, you're not gonna call Kamael, because Kamael does the exact opposite. It separates. It's the wrong force to call. Do you understand what I'm saying? I want you to be very clear about this. And again, in this instance, I'm being, again, it's by karma, because now the planet is moving quickly through a karmic purge. And because of my purpose and the purpose of me trying to guide the 144,000, I have to go through the, I kept on asking myself, why am I going through this? I don't understand. Help me find a way. This is for 5 years. I'm asking myself, I know there's a purpose to this, but I can't see it. I don't see it.
You know what I wonder at the moment, and maybe you'll just be getting into this, rather than go through the karmic experience and learning from karma rather than grace, is this resistance something that we can lessen by a certain practice to not let the opposition force build up to the extreme so that we can move on more quickly and easily?
I would, okay. Move with caution. Okay? Move with caution, because that force is not a joke.
Mhm.
We're talking now about a cosmic energy. What I'm doing now is that I'm asking Michael to protect me from him, to banish him away from me and from the lesson I was supposed to learn. My hope is that Michael can see that I've learned it, and I need now to be disconnected to it. In other words, put a break on the test. I've learned my lesson. That's what I'm besieging and asking for. Okay? But to sit down and invite it for coffee and have conversation with you, I would never recommend tell anybody to do this.
No.
You know, I'm saying this because I know this one, I know a few people in the light community in New York that are doing so-called, they call themselves magician, they're doing angel work, they're doing invocation, doing invocation to all these dark celestial angel and being, and they're having conversation with them. I'm telling you, they are deceivers. The name of that particular archangel we're talking about now translate as excrement. You're gonna have crap all over you. It's gonna appear because it's not that there's no knowledge. There's tremendous amount of knowledge, but the knowledge is corrupt. It's designed to make you lost and make you completely, to bury you and to make you feel overwhelmed. So my suggestion is pray to God and ask God to give you the discernment to be able to find out when the adversary is present in your life. Just to have the discernment to know when it's around you, so that you can begin to act accordingly. As I said, for the past 5 years, I was putting out little fire after one fire after another, sometimes 2 or 3 of them at a time. But not one did I realize that there was one collective that was the main arson that was setting all these things on fire.
I'm still needing to ask another question on this. If instead of putting out those fires, and I'm not saying you didn't do a lot of work on yourself, but was there some level of work of adjusting the worth quotient that you maybe suffered that could have saved you any of those steps? In other words, do we have some elements in our being that we could work to alter to avoid the lesson that maybe the adversary would bring us to force us out of it?
Okay, so throughout all of this, in other words, because I remember myself 6 years ago, and all of a sudden, all these things began to happen where all these loud things were all around me, but I didn't understand. But I still have the memory of where I was and what I was able to accomplish. And I knew there was a difference between the two. Yet throughout all of this, guess what? I discovered a deep and profound connection to Lakshmi. During meditation, she sat right next to me. I could feel her thigh against my leg and whispering in my ear. That connection could not have happened if I didn't go to that trial.
So what you're saying is accept the trial and watch for the lesson.
Exactly. In other words, remember in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they talk a lot about the, first you have the benevolent deities, and then you end up having the after 7-8 days, you end up having the wrathful deities, the experiences of demons and all that and so on and so forth. Yet throughout every demon that presents itself, no matter how menacing and big and large that they are, there are prayers that you say on a daily basis to ask that you awake and realize that the demon is an illusion. And once you begin to realize this, the Buddha that's behind it will show up and will take you into an alignment.
Good.
You know what I'm saying? So without that experience, I would have never connected to Lakshmi the way I'm connected to her right now. And I'm going to go further to tell you that Lakshmi will give you, in the right consciousness, she will give you immortality. You will have, and I mean it in the exact definition that's in the Webster dictionary, immortality. Because there's an aspect of her that connects to that, perpetual living.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's definitely, it's very powerful and very potent, because you're able to connect deeply and profoundly to. And again, I'm going to be very honest with you. It has not been pleasant. Okay? It has not been pleasant. If I was not the person that I was, I would be depressed or in a mental institution. But it's because I am on my practice, and I'm, and for me to keep healing and keep doing everything that I'm doing through this, again, as I said, the thing that went through my mind, as I told you on the waterfront earlier today, is I was saying to myself, if I didn't have all these things that were causing me that kind of resistance, where would I be as a healer? And then I laughed and I said, you're right where you're supposed to be. Because now, once you pass through this test, you're going to really demonstrate to the world who you really are. Because the audience that I need, that's the force that's been clouding me. It's cloaking me. That force has been cloaking me.
Got it. Interesting. Well, thank God you saw the lesson, and you learned and gained from it.
Janice, it was not. You have a little bit of a hint, because I shared with a few of you, including you, some of the problem I've been having. I've asked a few of you to pray for me, because there were times where I'm overwhelmed. I feel like I'm in quicksand. I'm sinking. Emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually, I'm being overwhelmed. And your prayers are deeply appreciated, because it shifted a lot of things for me. But again, I was still putting out small fires.
This is, and that was a big lesson for you too, Pierre, to ask for the help.
Absolutely.
Because there's certain things you cannot do it alone.
That's right.
You need your community around you.
Yep.
And reaching out to your community and ask for the help, that was huge. That was huge. Because you reach into a point you couldn't do it again anymore.
Yep.
You couldn't do it anymore. You just had to be sitting there like a baby and let your community handle it for you. You understand?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I'm glad you did though.
Yes, yes. I was being assaulted from all different directions by all kinds of, it's like a series of bad news, one after the other. And then it triggers you into complete fear, complete sense you're going to lose everything. Terrifying emotions that I had to figure out a way to process. And again,
Yeah.
with the perception, something is creating this. I'm learning something, but I don't know what. And as Marjorie said, I'm glad that I'm at a different juncture now where I'm beginning to understand what it is, and I'm applying prayers to it. And it's the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Is at the moment you realize, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, when you are presented with these demons that are in front of you, gigantic, they describe them in terms that are terrifying. They have all these skulls, so they're ripping people apart, blood in their mouth, multiple eyes. They're as big as the sky, their voice are like thunderclap and all that. But what you need to understand, the book says, is that they are nothing more but the creation of your mind. They are not real, they don't exist. And the moment you realize this, and what they say at this point, because the test is so big, every time you were presented every day on the Tibetan Book of the Dead with the wrathful deities, they present you with a prayer where you pray to the Buddha that may exist beyond that veil, beyond that illusion, to give you safe passage and to help you, or to pray to your guru, your teacher, help me find safe passage. And as you do this and you do the prayer with heart and with sincerity, because when you're in that in-between state, your will is 9 times more powerful than it is than when you're awake, when you're alive. It's much more potent. This is why it's called the Great Liberation through hearing, because someone will read you to your departing soul to remind you of the prayers. And if you can repeat the prayer while disembodied, listening to the teacher or a priest repeating this, because your will is so strong, you will connect to the Buddha that's on the other side, and the illusion will drop. Now, you all have the tools. I want to talk a little bit about your own practice and what you need to do for yourself and to hold yourself, and again, have the discernment. Because part of it also is that in your life right now, and I'm going to stop talking about myself and talk about how that may connect to you. Because in your life right now, you may have circumstances and situations that are like a fire engine next to you screaming, where you can't connect to spirit in the right way. Okay, it's like, what did you say? What? I can't hear you. Repeat again. And you're holding one ear and trying to talk on the cell phone on the other end. And part of that is that the people, the individual institutions that are around you, you have karma with them. And that force is using that connection and exploiting that connection as a way to test you. It could be friends, it could be family members, you have karma with them. And it's going to create crises around them. And when the crisis happens, think of yourself on the street trying to talk on a cell phone while the fire engine is literally right next to you. Because what's happening is that the crisis at hand is the loud external event that's trying to distract you from connected to that source which will heal and repair everything, particularly during the transit. Moreover, if you manage to somehow get across and let the karmic event or the experience of the puppet master disappear, because you overcame it, you uncloaked it, you discovered it. What may happen following this is that you may still have to you may still have to experience to figure out a way now to align your consciousness to an acceptance that whatever occurred had to happen the way it happened. Because a lot of time we have, you know, in hindsight, you know, we blame ourselves for things. You keep thinking to yourself, why didn't I see this? I wasted so much time. And this is why I'm saying everything had to happen the way it needed to happen for me to get to where I am. I don't regret anything. But now I finally understand. So once, be aware, because all of you have it in your life. It could be a disease, it could be a family member, a friend, somebody in your life that becomes so loud and so urgent that you're overwhelmed by its presence. It's larger than life. And it's eroding your connection to that source. And you need to understand and figure out a way to ask for a prayer or a connection of some kind. For me right now, the prayer is the Archangel Michael's soul prayer. And I'm on it. Let me tell you now, I'm on it. I'm letting, Pierre is going at it with all of his Capricorn might. I'm on it because I'm now realizing again, in hindsight, you all have 2020, because every experience I had in the past 5 years, there was always from the back of my mind somewhere, there is a reason for this. All of this is threaded. It's not just chaos. I feel like I'm in the middle of a twister, but it's not chaos. There's a reason for this.
All right.
What is the, I couldn't see it because I was still being spun around.
You will get done. The Capricorn in you will get it done.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yep. Yep.
They don't know that that Satan don't know who he's messing with.
Well,
That Satan got the wrong person to mess around with.
again, I'm not gonna even tempt Satan at all. I'm gonna do what I need to do. Okay.
Correct.
I'm gonna need what I need to do.
You're gonna protect yourself. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all you can do is to protect yourself. You're not gonna engage with them. You're just gonna protect yourself. Yeah.
So be aware of the karmic link that exists. It might be one or more people, one or more institution. It could be circumstances, crazy circumstances related to your computer software, to your telephone, related to your home. All of a sudden things are breaking down. You have to spend all this money. Again, the test is going to connect to money. It's going to connect to flow and lack. It's going to connect to experiences of lack. Whether it's lack of health, lack of joy, lack of money, it's going to connect to lack. And once you're on the other, once you pass that threshold, you will begin to understand that, okay, now I'm in a different place. And but you will understand, you will have more acceptance and more humility. You will end up being much more humble and more accepting. Because you know, again, as I said, there's a part of this that was, as I couldn't see it because maybe my ego as a teacher. I think that I would definitely play a factor in this. That's why I couldn't see it. Any other questions or comments?
If it's appropriate,
Sure.
would you be able to send that Michael,
Yes.
Archangel Michael prayer, please?
I'll send it to you.
Just been looking through the many folders I have, and maybe
I'll send it. As soon as the class is over, I'll send it again.
Thank you.
Yes. So I'll send it to all of you that are on the call present at this moment. Anyway, I'm very grateful. I'm very and again, this is a new beginning for me, because I can feel a great sense of insight and illumination that I didn't have before. I'll call you back in a half hour. I'm finishing up a class, okay? There's a great sense of illumination and that I didn't have before, and I'm gonna do the best that I can to make sure that I move forward from there. And I, not only in terms of disconnected the energy, but also merging with the opposite, going toward Lashmi and accepting my, it's funny. I was coming from the waterfront, and again, habitual thinking, and something I must have done. There's a place on 8th Avenue that has a restaurant that I always pass by. People, it's very busy. People are sitting down, blah, blah, blah. And the food looks good, and I'm always passing by, and I go back to my apartment, and I always have a salad in the refrigerator, maybe a piece of protein I put on top of the fish or something, and I eat my food. And today I'm walking by, and I realized there was in the back of my head a part of me that says, I don't have the money to afford to eat here. That was like had it not been for all of the breakthrough that just happened, I would have never seen it.
So did you stop and have something to eat?
No. I was walking quickly because I needed to come here for the class. It immediately I realized myself, this is lack consciousness. This is a lie. It's not true. And how many other instances in which there's a subconscious thought, not conscious, subconscious thought deep in my soul that are saying all kinds of things like this, that's holding this kind of negative dialogue and narrative. I'm not talking on a conscious level. I'm talking about the deep subconscious thing. It just pop up.
So perhaps part of the journey is to forgive self.
There you go. Yep. You have to accept and be humble to self and realize that, stop punishing yourself for not being perfect. In fact, you needed to go through this. Again, the wrathful deities experience the demons. And then what it says in the book, Tibetan Book of the Dead, the moment you realize your mind, it's created by your mind, and you say the prayer and the prayer brings you to the other side, the demon that was as big as the sky disintegrate and flower petals from the heavens and drop into the ground. And the Buddha that's behind it invites you into enlightenment.
Yep.
So the optimism that plants in your heart must be a great force as well.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And again, as I said, I would have never discovered Lakshmi had it not been that I'm experiencing all these experiences that bringing me deeper into lack, deeper into experiencing more lack, more fear, more. And I'm like, this is not a normal state. And as I reached out, Lakshmi showed up. And the crazy thing about Lakshmi is that I've been feeling her next to me, whispering in my ear. In my dreams, I had a vision. She was standing in front of me, always somewhere next to me. And the last experience I had of her, she was in me. She was completely in me. And it was magical. It was absolutely like euphoric in a way that that was completely insane.
You know what you just explained to me is the fact that if you're looking at it on a spiritual level, the abundance was there for you to grab. But for some reason, you had that veil inside of you that was not receiving it, that was not taking it. She's whispering in your ears. She's in front of you. She's behind you. She's all around you. And then what she's saying is that, grab me.
Yep. And I had to lift my
Let me help.
Yep.
I'm here. I'm here to be with you. I'm here to help you.
Yep.
This is beautiful.
Yep. Yep.
This is plainly beautiful.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
And what we go through in order to reach into that level and have that understanding, now that understanding will never leave you anymore.
Yep.
Because you went through a bad experience, a bad thing, a thing of lack. And it was the abundance was there for you to grab all this time. It's just that the consciousness, the conditionment of all these years were there.
Yep, the church conditioning, the original sin, the resources are limited. All of that was there, and these loud experiences now by the principality that's now using this as a doorway to test me.
Exactly.
It's the same being that showed up to Jesus when after the 40 days of fasting in the desert.
Correct. Wow. Just plainly beautiful. Plainly beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's the same dynamic. That's why I was saying that it made me think of the Book of the Dead and how what we go through in our transition from here, this dimension, into another dimension. And it's the same dynamic. It's the same temptation, the same thing.
We're going through a transition from one dimension to another. Any transition or gap is a bardo.
Yeah.
It's the same as your transition from being alive to being dead to being reborn. All of them are bardo. They're the same experience.
And in a way, it's God is preparing us.
Yep.
Preparing us to go through that, because from all the prediction that is out there,
Yep.
the earth is going to go through that border.
Yep.
And as we going through it and we understand what is going on, it's a way for us to be prepared.
Yep. Yeah. And the bigger your purpose and your mission is, the more intense the test is going to be.
Correct. And that's what I wanted to tell you.
Yep.
Because you're teaching this.
Yep. Yep.
That's the reason why you went through that year of craziness.
Years, not a year.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do the closing meditation. 5 minutes. take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And let it go. Please forgive me. I love you. And let it go. Please forgive me. I love you. And let it go. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other. And allow your consciousness to emanate from your heart space. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And notice what you notice. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And become aware of the expansions, insights, and breakthroughs as you experience now the world 360 degrees. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And notice what you noticed. Allow your consciousness to elevate now and connect to the cornucopia of all giving the point of emanation, where all gifts, life, love, blessings, abundance, flow, miracle emanate from. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And become aware of all of the immense cosmic and universal blessings that emanates from this point of origin, releasing in every cell in your body a remembrance of the original covenant with the source of all life and all gift, all abundance, all blessings. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let every cell in your body now act as one unified consciousness, igniting your entire being into a focused, purposeful certainty of connection with Lashmi and endless blessings. I am abundant. I am transformed and changed by miraculous and instantaneous manifestation of perpetual blessings and gifts. May the light, the peace, the abundance, and the rest that I know pass on to everyone in my circle of influence. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Oh, thank you, Pierre. It's beautiful.
You're welcome, Janice.
Thanks, Pierre.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a wolf that was all bound up and tied up in a cage in the meditation.
Well, that wolf need to be free. So in your practice, you should go back in the meditation and go back to the image of the wolf and see if you can
Okay.
liberate it. Talk to
Okay.
it first to find out what it represents and see if you can
Okay.
open the cage and liberate it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because we are all about sovereignty for everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for listening tonight and for this very important class. If you're listening to us on Patreon, thank you for your support. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. I want to thank you all for being here, and I'll talk to you next week. Blessing everyone. Thank you for being here.
Blessing, Pierre. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good
Love
night.
you guys.
Bye.
Love you.
Okay, bye-bye.